Media fact checker. Democrats impeach bid against Attorney General Pam Bondi over Epstein files briefing. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Pam Bondi attended a closed-door briefing on Jeffrey Epstein files on Capitol Hill on Wednesday, March 20, 2024. Democrats walked out of the briefing after less than an hour, calling it an outrageous fake hearing. The House Oversight Committee subpoenaed Pam Bondi earlier this month to testify under oath about the Justice Department's handling of Epstein files. 5 Republicans joined Democrats in voting to subpoena Bondi for questioning on Epstein-related documents. California Congressman Robert Garcia labeled the briefing a fake hearing and accused Bondi of refusing to commit to testifying under oath. But not all outlets told the same story. Article 1 states that Democratic Representative Yasemin Ansari and Rashida Tlaib are co-sponsors of the impeachment articles, but Article 2 does not mention them as co-sponsors. Article 1 mentions that the FBI Director Kash Patel testified under oath about buying location data on Americans, while Article 2 does not mention this detail. Article 1 includes multiple unrelated topics such as the Iran war, Joe Kent's resignation, and Trump's deportation policies, which are not present in Article 2. This story was covered by The Guardian. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. Hawaii faces severe flooding and dam failure risks during extreme rainfall events. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Over 4,000 people were ordered to evacuate in Waialua and Haliwa, Oahu, due to flooding, Guardian, ABC. The 120-year-old Waihia Dam on Oahu is at risk of imminent failure and water was actively running over its spillway at 1,500 gallons per second, Guardian, ABC. Hawaii Governor Josh Green activated the Hawaii National Guard to respond to flooding, Guardian, ABC. Parts of Oahu received 8 to 12 inches, 20 to 30 centimeters, of rain in a short period, with Kala Peak receiving nearly 400 millimeters in one day, Guardian, ABC. A shelter at Waialua High and Intermediate School was evacuated due to flooding, displacing about 185 people and 50 pets, Guardian, ABC. But not all outlets told the same story. Guardian, Article 1, reports 5,500 people under evacuation orders, while Guardian, Article 2, and ABC state the evacuation warning covers over 4,000 people. Guardian, Article 1, states the flooding is the worst in over 20 years, while ABC does not specify the timeframe for severity. Guardian, Article 2, mentions the shelter at Waialua High lost power and was evacuated itself, but ABC only states it was evacuated due to flooding without mentioning power loss. This story was covered by ABC News and The Guardian. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. Kangaroo Island Council's proposed feral cat eradication policy and progress. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Kangaroo Island Council is considering a last cat policy to ban new pet cats from the island as part of a feral cat eradication effort. Mayor Michael Pengelly stated the goal is to rid Kangaroo Island of feral cats and not allow any more cats in by 2030. The Dudley Peninsula project has removed 2,800 feral cats, leaving around 150 remaining, with a 95% reduction expected this winter. Feral cats contribute to a $12 million annual decline in sheep production due to toxoplasmosis, according to Mayor Pengelly and Jack Goff. The federal government provided $1.61 million in December 2023, with an additional $800,000 from the state government in March 2024 for the project. But not all outlets told the same story. News Kamau states the policy is not that far advanced and could take up to 30 years, while ABC describes it as an idea that the current council would like to see put in place without specifying advancement. News Kamau mentions the council aims to totally strip the island of the invasive species by 2030, but ABC does not explicitly state this timeline for the entire island, only the Dudley Peninsula. This story was covered by ABC News and news.com.au. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. A real possum was found among plush toys in a Hobart Airport gift shop. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. A real possum was found nestled among stuffed animals in the gift shop at Hobart Airport on Wednesday morning. The possum appeared calm when first discovered but caused pandemonium when it left the shop and wandered the departure lounge. Liam Bloomfield, multi-site manager with Lagardère AWPL at Hobart Airport, confirmed the incident and described the possum as not stressed initially. The possum was safely escorted out of the terminal by airport management without incident. The incident occurred around 11:45 a.m. on Wednesday. But not all outlets told the same story. ABC describes the possum as appeared calm but then took a walk outside the shop, which caused pandemonium, while The Guardian does not specify the possum's behavior after leaving the shop. ABC mentions redevelopment works as a possible explanation for the possum's entry, but The Guardian does not mention this detail. The Guardian highlights staff and passengers being delighted, while ABC focuses more on the logistical challenge of managing the situation. This story was covered by ABC News and The Guardian. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. Former NRL player Chris Walker granted bail after domestic violence charges. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Chris Walker, 46, is a former NRL and State of Origin player who appeared in Southport Magistrates Court on March 18, 2024, facing domestic violence charges. Walker was granted bail with conditions including admission to a drug and alcohol rehabilitation program, drug and alcohol testing, and leaving the Gold Coast region. Walker was arrested on March 14 after allegedly fleeing police by clinging to a pontoon and claiming he was just going for a swim. Walker's bail was opposed by police due to concerns over reoffending risk and failure to appear at court. Walker's alleged incidents began on March 12 with physical and verbal abuse against a family member, including taking a phone and yelling at staff at the victim's workplace. But not all outlets told the same story. ABC states Walker's bail conditions include leaving southeast Queensland, while Newscomau specifies leaving the Greater Gold Coast region only. ABC mentions Walker's bail was granted with the condition he leave the Gold Coast and attend court, but Newscomau does not explicitly state this as a bail condition. ABC does not mention the alleged victim's fear for safety or the tracking down of the victim at relatives' property, which Newscomau details. This story was covered by ABC News and news.com.au. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. Donald Trump's tariff policy and Supreme Court ruling on trade duties. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Donald Trump claimed on Sunday he has the absolute right to impose new tariffs after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled many of his 2023 tariffs were illegal, both sources. The Supreme Court in February 2024 found the Trump administration lacked sufficient legal justification under the 1977 International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA, for many tariffs imposed on countries worldwide, both sources. Trump imposed 10% tariffs on goods from much of the world in March 2024 under Section 122 of the 1974 Trade Act, which expire in July 2024, both sources. Trump vowed to raise these temporary tariffs to 15% but has yet to do so, both sources. U.S. officials launched trade investigations last week to justify a new wave of permanent tariffs replacing the repealed ones, both sources. But not all outlets told the same story. Article 1 states Trump's tariffs under Section 122 expire after 150 days, in July, while Article 2 does not specify the exact expiration month but confirms the 150-day timeline. Article 1 suggests Trump's meeting with Xi Jinping may be delayed due to his Financial Times comments, while Article 2 clarifies the White House's position that the meeting is not at risk but could be delayed, implying less certainty. Article 1 does not mention Trump's criticism of Judge Boasberg or the FCC license threats, which are detailed in Article 2. This story was covered by The Guardian. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. Sri Lanka and Asia face fuel shortages due to Iran blocking Strait of Hormuz during US-Israel war. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Sri Lanka introduced a 4-day work week starting Wednesday, March 2024, for state institutions, schools, and universities, with Wednesday as a mandatory holiday for the private sector. Guardian, News.com.au, ABC. Iran blocked the Strait of Hormuz on February 28, 2024, in retaliation for US and Israeli airstrikes, disrupting 80% of Asia's oil and LNG supply. News.com.au, ABC. Sri Lanka's fuel rationing limits motorists to 15 litres of petrol diesel per week and public transport to 200 litres. Guardian, News.com.au, ABC. Sri Lanka's petrol and diesel reserves are estimated to last nearly 6 weeks, but officials warn further disruptions could severely impact the island. Guardian, News.com.au, ABC. President Anura Kumara Dissanayake declared at an emergency meeting, "We must prepare for the worst, but hope for the best." Guardian, News.com.au. But not all outlets told the same story. The Guardian states India's 2 tankers successfully navigated the Strait of Hormuz on Saturday, March 2024, but News.com.au and ABC do not mention this specific event. The Guardian reports Pakistan raised fuel prices to curb hoarding, while News.com.au and ABC do not mention this detail. News.com.au states Myanmar's military government imposed strict vehicle restrictions, even odd plate days, but this is not mentioned in Guardian or ABC. This story was covered by ABC News, The Guardian, and news.com.au. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. Utah woman convicted of murdering her husband via fentanyl poisoning after financial and marital disputes. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Carrie Richins was convicted of aggravated murder for poisoning her husband Eric Richins with fentanyl in March 2022 in Park City, Utah. The lethal dose of fentanyl was slipped into a cocktail Eric Richins drank at their home outside Park City, Utah. Carrie Richins was $4.5 million in debt and falsely believed she would inherit Eric's estate worth over $4 million upon his death. Carrie Richins was also convicted of attempted murder, fentanyl-laced sandwich causing hives and blackout on Valentine's Day 2022, and fraudulently claiming insurance benefits after his death. Carrie Richins self-published a children's book titled Asterisk Are You With Me? Asterisk shortly before her arrest in May 2023, which prosecutors argued was part of a cover-up plan. But not all outlets told the same story. The Age and Guardian report Carrie Richins' book was self-published, but TAG's Detective O'Driscoll specifically testified she paid a ghostwriting company to write it, implying partial self-publication. Carrie Richins' defense claims Eric Richins was addicted to painkillers and asked her to procure opioids, but she told police in a video she had no history of his illicit drug use. The Age and Guardian describe Carrie Richins' 911 call as the sound of a wife becoming a black widow, prosecution framing, but no source contradicts the defense's framing of it as a widow. This story was covered by The Guardian, Sydney Morning Herald and The Age. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. BHP and Woodside Energy appoint new CEOs amid leadership transitions and compensation details. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Brandon Craig will become BHP's CEO on July 1, 2025, succeeding Mike Henry, who held the role since 2020. Brandon Craig's base salary will be $1.9 million USD, 2.67 million Australian dollars, annually with superannuation contributions of 10% of base salary. BHP's incentive schemes allow Brandon Craig to earn up to 3.6 times his base salary in cash and shares if performance targets are met. Elizabeth Westcott was appointed Woodside Energy's permanent CEO and Managing Director in 2025, succeeding Meg O'Neill. Elizabeth Westcott's fixed annual reward, FAR, is $2.3 million, including base salary, benefits, and performance-based bonuses. But not all outlets told the same story. ABC states Brandon Craig's base salary is $1.9 million USD, $2.67 million Australian dollars, while Newscom Australia does not specify the salary amount. ABC mentions Brandon Craig's salary could be doubled annually if performance targets are met, but Newscom Australia does not provide this detail. ABC reports Mike Henry earned $19 million in realised pay in the 2023 to 2024 financial year, but Newscom Australia does not mention this figure or context. This story was covered by ABC News and news.com.au. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. Nicola Ollislages shares silver in women's high jump at World Athletics Indoor Championships. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Nicola Ollislages finished in a three-way share of second place, silver, in the women's high jump at the World Athletics Indoor Championships in Torun, Poland. Ollislages cleared 1.99 meters to share silver with Yaroslava Mahuchik, gold, 2.01 m, Yulia Levchenko, and Angelina Topic. Yaroslava Mahuchik won gold with a clearance of 2.01 meters. Eleanor Patterson finished 7th with a clearance of 1.93 meters. Peter Bol advanced to the men's 800-meter semifinals with a heat win in 1 minute and 45.87 seconds. But not all outlets told the same story. ABC reports Eleanor Patterson's time as 1.93 m, while The Guardian does not specify her exact height but implies she struggled below 1.93 m. ABC reports Jess Hull's time as 4 minutes and 12.45 seconds, but this detail is not mentioned in The Guardian. ABC reports Adam Spencer's time as 3 minutes and 40.79 seconds, but this detail is not mentioned in The Guardian. This story was covered by ABC News and The Guardian. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. FCC Chair Brendan Carr threatens to revoke broadcast licenses over Iran war coverage. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Brendan Carr, FCC Chair, warned broadcasters on the 10th of June, 2024 that licenses could be revoked if they run fake news over the Iran conflict, stating broadcasters that are running hoaxes and news distortions have a chance now to correct course before their license renewals come up. Senator Ron Johnson, Republican Wisconsin, criticized Carr's comments, saying, "I'm in big support of the First Amendment and I do not like the heavy hand of government." Senator Elizabeth Warren, Democrat Massachusetts, called Carr's threat illegal for the government to censor free speech it just doesn't like about Trump's Iran war. FCC Commissioner Ana Gomez, Democrat, stated the FCC can issue threats all day long, but it is powerless to carry them out and warned such threats violate the First Amendment. Donald Trump praised Carr's threats on Truth Social, calling them thrilled and accusing media outlets of treason for reporting on AI-generated images linked to Iran. But not all outlets told the same story. Article 1 states Carr's threat was made on Saturday, the 10th of June, 2024, while Article 3 implies it followed Trump's Truth Social post on Sunday night, likely the 9th of June, 2024. Article 1 reports Carr's threat was a warning shot with no immediate action, but Article 3 quotes Carr saying all of that stuff is on the table regarding early renewals or revocations. Article 2 claims Carr's threats are legally hollow and make no sense under the law, while Article 1 cites Carr's legal argument that broadcasters must operate in the public interest. This story was covered by The Guardian. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. 2026 Six Nations Rugby Tournament Analysis and Player Rankings. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Louis Bielbayari scored a record 9 tries in a single Six Nations season, including 4 against England, and became the first player to score in every game in successive championships. Thomas Ramos scored the decisive final winning penalty for France against England in Paris, marking his 4th successive championship as top point scorer and placing him atop France's all-time list. Rhys Carr scored in 3 successive Test matches, becoming only the 6th prop in history to do so, and was Wales's leading point scorer in the 2026 Six Nations. Tommaso Menoncello scored a solo try in Italy's historic win against England and was praised for his speed, strength, and commitment, earning him a place in Toulouse's squad for next season. Finn Russell was pivotal in Scotland's home wins over England and France, including a quick restart for Darcy Graham's crucial late try against Ireland. But not all outlets told the same story. Article 1 lists Louis Bielbayari as joint fifth highest try scorer in tournament history with 18 tries in 14 games, while Article 2 does not mention this specific ranking but focuses on his record-breaking individual achievements. Article 1 names Stuart McCloskey as Ireland's midfield revelation and praises his work rate, while Article 2 does not emphasize his midfield role as prominently but still mentions him as an honourable mention for player of the tournament. Article 1 highlights Kyle Steyn as Scotland's main reason for their success when playing well, while Article 2 does not mention Steyn as prominently in the highlights section. This story was covered by The Guardian. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. Homicide investigation and manslaughter charge in Perth's Banksia Grove over a woman's death. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. A 42-year-old woman was found unresponsive at a home in Banksia Grove, Perth's northern suburbs, on Thursday morning around 9 a.m. The woman was declared dead at the scene by paramedics after attempts to revive her. The incident occurred on Mayerley Bend, Banksia Grove. A man in his 40s was assisting police with inquiries, Article 1, and later charged, Article 2. Police received the initial report around 9 a.m. on Thursday. But not all outlets told the same story. Article 1 states a man in his 40s is assisting police, while Article 2 specifies a 47-year-old man was arrested and charged. Article 1 does not mention any charges, while Article 2 states the man was charged with manslaughter. This story was covered by ABC News. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. Iranian women's football team asylum crisis after Australian Asian Cup tournament. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. 7 members of Iran's women's football team, including 1 staff member, were granted humanitarian visas by Australia on March 10, 2024, after seeking asylum during the AFC Women's Asian Cup. 5 players, Mona Hamoudi, Zura Sarbali, Zura Ganbari, Mohadaseh Zolfi, and Zura Meshkinka, withdrew their asylum claims and returned to Iran via Malaysia and Oman, arriving in early April 2024. 2 players, Fatma Pasandadeh and Atfef Ramazanasadeh, remain in Australia, training with Brisbane Roar FC and receiving government support. The team initially refused to sing Iran's national anthem before their opening match against South Korea on March 7, 2024, sparking controversy and state media condemnation. Iranian state media and officials framed the players' return as a patriotic victory, with Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf and President Mehdi Taj praising their decision. But not all outlets told the same story. ABC and News.com.au report that Iranian diaspora members claim a staff member, Zura Sultan Moshkehkar, relayed threats from the Iranian regime, but government sources say they found no basis for these claims. ABC, Articles 1-6, Guardian, Article 2. Iranian state media and officials portray the players' return as a voluntary, patriotic choice, while Australian officials and Iranian exiles argue the players were coerced by threats to their families. Iranian state media, Articles 5-7-8, Exiles, Articles 5-6. News.com.au and The Guardian describe the players' silence during the national anthem as an act of defiance, but no source provides a direct quote or confirmation from the players themselves about their motivations. This story was covered by ABC News, The Guardian, and News.com.au. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. Australian government response to fuel crisis amid Middle East conflict and global energy shocks. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Anthony Albanese announced a snap meeting of National Cabinet on Thursday, 2024, to coordinate fuel supply responses across Australia, Articles 1, 2, 3, 4. The government released up to 20% of Australia's domestic petrol and diesel reserves, 20% figure, to regional areas facing shortages, Articles 1, 3, 4. Fuel standards were temporarily relaxed to allow higher sulfur levels in fuel, injecting an extra 100 million litres per month into the market for 60 days, Articles 3, 4. The Strait of Hormuz, a key shipping route for about 20% of global fuel supply, is disrupted by the Iran conflict, Articles 3, 4. Prime Minister Albanese stated the fuel crisis is driven by a 100% surge in demand over a short period, not supply shortages, Articles 1, 3. But not all outlets told the same story. Article 1 states Albanese said what we haven't seen is a reduction in supply in Australia, what we have seen is this massive surge in demand, while Article 3 quotes Bowen saying panic buying and stockpiling were causing shortages, implying supply issues beyond demand. Article 3 reports Greens leader Larissa Waters called for free public transport, while no other source mentions this policy proposal. Article 2 emphasises rural and regional parts of the country having run dry service stations, while Article 1 focuses on regional Australia without specifying rural areas. This story was covered by ABC News, The Guardian, and news.com.au. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. Former Liberal staffer Bruce Lehrmann faces Queensland rape trial in November 2024. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Bruce Lehrmann, 30, is accused of 2 counts of rape in Toowoomba, Queensland, allegedly occurring in October 2021. The trial is scheduled to begin on November 2, 2024, in Toowoomba District Court. Judge Deborah Richards set the trial date during a court call-over on Wednesday, date not specified but implied recent. Lehrmann, formerly a Canberra-based Liberal Party staffer, was charged in January 2023 and committed for trial in July 2024. Lehrmann has denied the allegations and indicated he will contest the charges, though he has not yet formally entered a plea. But not all outlets told the same story. News Kamau states Lehrmann was on bail at the time of the court call-over, but ABC does not mention bail status. News Kamau does not specify the date of the court call-over, while ABC implies it was a recent mention, no explicit date given. News Kamau does not mention a pre-trial hearing in Brisbane, while ABC explicitly states one is scheduled for July 24, 2024. This story was covered by ABC News and news.com.au. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. 2 individuals arrested for attempting to enter UK's Farslane nuclear submarine base. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. 2 people, a 34-year-old Iranian man and a 31-year-old Romanian woman, were arrested on the 19th of March, 2026 after attempting to enter HM Naval Base Clyde, Farslane, Scotland, around 5 p.m. The base houses the UK's Trident nuclear submarines and is not open to the public. Police Scotland confirmed the arrests and stated inquiries were ongoing, with the pair due to appear in Dumbarton Sheriff Court, Guardian, or no further comment given, Royal Navy. The incident occurred on Thursday the 19th of March, 2026, with the man identified as Iranian and the woman's nationality reported as Romanian, Guardian ABC. The Royal Navy previously stated 2 people unsuccessfully tried to enter the base, Guardian. But not all outlets told the same story. The Guardian states the woman's nationality is Romanian, while ABC only reports the man is Iranian and the woman's nationality is unknown. The Guardian mentions the incident is not considered particularly serious by the MOD, but ABC does not provide this assessment. The Guardian cites The Sun for the claim the pair acted suspiciously, but ABC does not reference this detail. This story was covered by ABC News and The Guardian. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. Timothée Chalamet's 2026 Oscar campaign failure for Marty Supreme and Best Actor loss to Michael B. Jordan. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Timothée Chalamet was nominated for Best Actor twice in 2026, for Marty Supreme and another role, unspecified in both sources. Chalamet lost the Best Actor Oscar to Michael B. Jordan's performance in Sinners at the 98th Academy Awards. Chalamet won the Golden Globe for Best Actor in a Musical or Comedy in January 2026 for Marty Supreme. Chalamet won the SAG Award, Actor Awards, for Best Lead Actor in 2025 for A Complete Unknown, defeating Adrien Brody. Marty Supreme grossed $147 million worldwide, becoming A24's highest-grossing film ever, surpassing Everything Everywhere All at Once. But not all outlets told the same story. The Guardian suggests Chalamet's snipes against opera and ballet were made after voting closed, while ABC states they resurfaced just a day before voting closed. The Guardian implies the Academy may have been hesitant to reward Chalamet too early for a single performance, but ABC does not mention this as a factor in his loss. ABC reports Chalamet's top-level work video was deleted from YouTube, while The Guardian does not mention its deletion status. This story was covered by ABC News and The Guardian. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. Pauline Hanson's One Nation surge benefiting Labour in Australian elections via electoral system dynamics. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Pauline Hanson stated it's just the start regarding One Nation's political momentum after the election. One Nation secured 20% of the national vote in the election. Labour's vote remained at 39% despite the Conservative split. Liberal Party vote collapsed to 19% nationally during counting. Greens' vote increased to 11% in the election. But not all outlets told the same story. No contradictions found between the two sources. This story was covered by Sydney Morning Herald and The Age. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. Prime Minister Albanese and Minister Burke heckled at Lokemba Mosque Eid event. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Anthony Albanese and Tony Burke attended Eid prayers at Lokemba Mosque in Sydney's West on Friday morning, 2024. Protesters at the mosque shouted phrases including genocide supporters, disgrace, and shame at Albanese and Burke. A 33-year-old man was removed from the mosque by police after being identified as a heckler and given a move-on direction. Gamal Kir, secretary of the Lebanese Muslim Association, delivered a statement defending the invitation of Albanese and Burke. Lebanese Health Ministry reports at least 912 deaths, including 111 children, and 2,221 wounded in Israel's strikes on Lebanon. But not all outlets told the same story. The Guardian reports Albanese made a hasty exit avoiding a crowd on the mosque steps, while the ABC states he and Burke remained until the end of the speech before being led out. The SMH claims initial plans included Albanese giving a speech, but The Guardian and ABC do not mention this. The ABC reports a heckler claimed Albanese was responsible for 1 billion deaths, while this exact figure is not mentioned in other sources. This story was covered by ABC News, The Guardian, news.com.au, and Sydney Morning Herald. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. Donald Trump criticizes Australia and NATO allies for refusing military aid in Iran conflict and Strait of Hormuz blockade. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Donald Trump publicly stated on social media that the US no longer need or desire NATO countries' assistance in the Iran war, writing "We never did." Guardian, The Age, SMH, News.com.au, ABC. Trump named Australia, Japan, South Korea, and NATO as countries that refused to send warships to the Strait of Hormuz. Guardian, The Age, SMH, News.com.au, ABC. Australia's Transport Minister Catherine King confirmed Australia would not send a ship to the Strait of Hormuz. Guardian, ABC. The Strait of Hormuz has been effectively blocked by Iran since the US-Israel strikes on Iran in February, causing global oil supply disruptions and fuel price surges. Guardian, The Age, SMH, ABC. Australia's fuel prices surged, with regional NSW retailers charging $3.39 per litre for both unleaded petrol and diesel, Guardian. But not all outlets told the same story. The Guardian and ABC report Australia's Transport Minister Catherine King ruled out sending a ship to the Strait of Hormuz, but The Age and News.com.au do not mention her name or specific statement. The Guardian states Trump explicitly asked Japan, South Korea, and China for help in the Strait of Hormuz, while The Age and ABC only mention Japan and South Korea without China. The Guardian reports fuel prices in Sydney reached diesel prices above $3 per litre, while The Age and ABC do not specify Sydney's prices. This story was covered by ABC News, The Guardian, news.com.au, Sydney Morning Herald and The Age. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. US military spending and humanitarian costs of the Iran conflict in early 2026. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. The US spent approximately $11.3 billion in the first 6 days of its military strikes on Iran, 5th of February-March 2026, according to Pentagon officials briefing lawmakers. The Pentagon's $11.3 billion estimate excludes costs like force deployment, medical expenses, infrastructure repairs, and pre-war buildup, per multiple sources. Over 1,300 people have been killed in Iran since the strikes began, including more than 200 children, as reported by at least 2 sources. The Environmental Protection Agency's 2026 budget is $8.8 billion, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's is $9.2 billion, and the National Cancer Institute's is $7.4 billion, all dwarfed by the first week's war spending. A girls' school in Minab, southeastern Iran, was destroyed by a US strike, killing about 175 children and teachers, per 2 sources. But not all outlets told the same story. Article 1 states the Pentagon's $11.3 billion figure was limited to munitions and excluded other costs, while Article 2 implies the $11.3 billion is the total war cost for the first week, without clarifying exclusions. Article 1 cites CSIS $12.7 billion estimate by day 6, but Article 3 reports Hassett's $12 billion figure as the total since the 28th of February, no day-specific breakdown. Article 3 claims over 1,300 deaths in Iran, including 200 children, while Article 1 states more than 3,000 people are believed to have been killed, a discrepancy in total fatalities. This story was covered by The Guardian. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. Donald Trump's Pearl Harbor joke during a White House meeting with Japan's PM Sanai Takeichi. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Donald Trump joked about Japan's 1941 Pearl Harbor attack during a White House press conference on December 7, 2023, saying we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Japanese Prime Minister Sanai Takeichi visibly reacted with discomfort, eyes widening, shifting in her seat during Trump's comments. The Pearl Harbor attack killed 2,390 Americans and led to the US declaring war on Japan the next day, December 8, 1941. Trump's comment followed a question about why the US did not notify allies like Japan before striking Iran. Japan's constitution bans the use of force except for self-defense, limiting its military involvement in conflicts like Iran. But not all outlets told the same story. ABC reports Trump later said Japan's help with the Strait of Hormuz was not needed, but The Guardian and SMH emphasize Trump's persistent pressure on Japan to contribute. The Guardian does not mention the post-meeting economic announcements, $40 billion nuclear reactors, $33 billion gas investments, which ABC and SMH detail. SMH states Trump's summit with Xi Jinping was postponed, while ABC and Guardian do not mention this explicitly. This story was covered by ABC News, The Guardian, and Sydney Morning Herald. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis. Media Fact Checker. Australia's economic risks from US-Iran tensions and domestic policy fallout. All source articles are linked in the description below. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Barry Cassidy and Tony Barry are co-hosting a Guardian podcast analysing economic risks. The RBA, Reserve Bank of Australia, has raised the cash rate. Liberal MP Andrew Hastie has criticised US President Trump's Iran war policy. Treasurer Jim Chalmers is described as opening the door for a potential recession. The article discusses the fuel crisis and its economic fallout in Australia. This story was covered by The Guardian. Subscribe to Media Fact Checker for daily Australian news analysis.